me. This is my new podcast for self love, self care, and motivation. I tried my best to look for the comfiest position and sit down and record this episode. It did not turn well. Anyway, welcome and welcome back to another episode on my channel. I really miss you guys, and today we're going to talk about a different new topic. I know some of you have never heard about this topic before, but take it easy. I'm going to explain everything I can. So, I always say that self care is really about what you need in any particular moment, and it doesn't always look like bubble baths, drinking tea, and sitting on your couch, watching series, or taking yourself on a solo date, or even going to like a special spot sometimes. It's just maybe like reparenting yourself and giving yourself the things that you needed as a child. That may sound a bit harsh for some of you, but we'll talk about it. Welcome back to my podcast channel. My name is Nada. If you're new here, today we're going to talk about shadow work, how to do it, what it is, why you should do it, and all that good stuff. Shadow work is one of the things that really helped me figure out who I was, what I liked, why I act the way I act, and what I thought the way I thought. And it's something that I feel like everyone should do at some point in their lives. If you're struggling with your identity, or even if you're just struggling with like confidence, relationships, life in general, it's important to do shadow work and to look within and deal with a lot of unresolved issues that may have happened in your childhood or just in your past period in order to evolve and to become a better person and a better version. So, first thing first, what is shadow work? Shadow work is exploring and integrating the unconscious aspects of oneself, such as repressed emotions, fears, and desires, in order to achieve personal growth and wholeness. So basically, you have a shadow self, like in the depth of yourself. Your shadow self is made up of traits that you are embarrassed about, traits that you are not proud of. It's basically the things that you try to hide the most, but in order to feel emotionally your best, you eventually have to merge your shadow self and your actual self, which is the center of your personality. It's like hiding that shadow of you deep inside and not showing it to the world. The person who you are to the public and who you actually like to show. For example, if you were being scolded a lot for being really emotional as a child, like if you got yelled at for crying, if you got yelled at for showing any type of vulnerability, any type of emotion, you eventually won't feel safe showing emotions. Being vulnerable and crying because you were yelled at and scolded by maybe your parents for doing those things after a while, you will start to feel like you have to suppress and like bury that in order for people you love to love you back. Like, okay, I'm not gonna do this again, so they won't yell at me again. You will feel like in order to make them happy, you can't be emotional. You can't be X, Y, and Z. You can't be vulnerable. You can't cry. This happens a lot with men, actually. I'm pretty sure we all know that it does happen with women too, but that's just one example. It's just an example. For example, like men are expected not to be too much emotional or they can't cry or something, but things can change actually. It can be a lot of things. So I'm gonna carry on with the example of emotions. Being emotional will eventually become a trigger for you, and because you were taught to suppress that, because you were taught that that isn't a good trait to have, especially for men, you will eventually be triggered by other people being emotional. You've been so programmed to believe that it is not safe for you to be emotional, that it's not safe for you to be vulnerable. So when someone else does it, you will look at them like, why are you acting like that? It will bother you so bad because that's something that you have been trying to hide in yourself for the longest time. Because you will think like, I tried to bury this part. It was not a good thing to have, blah blah blah. Why that person is showing it? Why that person have it? Like, why is it like okay for them to do it and I'm not okay? Like it's not okay for me to do it. That that's the thing here. And a lot of the time, that's why we get really, really annoyed and triggered by things that other people do. It will seem like it's something that we can't really relate to, but really it's something that we try to hide within ourselves. So it shows up as a red flag in someone else. The same goes for someone who has really, really low self-esteem. If you were told that you weren't pretty, if you were told that acting in a certain way meant that you were conceited or that you needed to be humble or like you're showing off, you don't need to do that thing. When you see other people displaying confidence, you will look at them like they are boasting or like they are conceited or they think they are better than everyone else, like or they are showing off. And when really that's just an insecurity that you have within yourself. For example, if you're not confident, you will look at someone who is super confident as someone who's showing off, if you know what I'm saying. So that there is a reason behind why we do things we do. There is a reason why we feel the way we feel about certain things that other people do. This is why shadow work is so important. It's so important to do this process of asking ourselves questions, deep, big questions. It's important to look within ourselves to realize why you are acting in a certain way and why you think in a certain way about a certain thing so that you can change that and become better. Sometimes we do things that we don't even realize we're doing. That happens. Sometimes we think things we don't realize we are thinking. Sometimes we like things we may not realize we like. So, sitting down and really taking inventory of all this stuff helps you to create a better sense of self. It helps you to become more self aware and it helps you to have better relationships, even with yourself, to be more confident, and it benefits you in so many different ways. So it will not only benefit you, it will benefit everyone else around you. We're going to get into how exactly to do shadow work. As I've said before, basically it's just about asking yourself big, deep questions. What you need to write down is like questions you need to answer. Before we get into that, let's talk about how your shadow will often remind you that it exists. Remember when I said that your shadow is something that you try to hide or you tried to hide, but it didn't work. But although you are trying to hide it, it is still there and your shadow will always remind you that it's there. It often shows up as poor self esteem, like I've said before, anything you have been taught to believe about yourself, no matter how confident you try to seem like you are, deep down you will see that you will still have a low self esteem. And that's your shadow reminding you that these things were said to you as a child, for example, this was done to you, which means like anything you may feel like it's there. Maybe it's just something you had when you were a kid or you have dealt with when you were a kid. It can show up as anxiety and depression. It can also show up as self-sabotage. That that was a big one for many people for the longest time. Whenever something good was happening to them, they always feel like something bad had to be coming afterward. Like for example, if they feel like super happy for 2 days, they will feel like, oh my God, something bad will happen eventually. And so, in order to control the situation, they would end whatever was going on before someone else could, or before something bad could really happen. They decide to end it themselves. And that was a result of them not feeling worthy. They will they were insecure of whatever that thing was that they had. So for now, I'm going to share with you some questions that you can ask yourself. I recommend writing it down. I don't recommend just thinking about it because thinking does not allow you to recognize your thoughts. Thinking does not allow you to really get all of your thoughts out of your mind so that you can really understand them and actually study them. You want to be able to examine your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions, so it's the best to write it down with a pen and paper. And it's okay if you choose not to write it on journal. So, I don't know, if you decide that like you don't want anyone else to read it again, you can write it on a paper and then you burn it down or throw it. This Siri questioning, it's called the Socratic approach. Socratic approach is something I googled. Yes, of course, I'm not a psychologist or something. It's basically asking a series of questions that elicit critical thinking and re-examination of beliefs we have about ourselves. If you believe that you're not pretty, if you believe that you can't live a certain type of life, if you believe you won't be able to make a certain type of money, if you believe that you're not worthy of certain type of relationship, if you believe that you are not worthy of having a faithful partner, or maybe you believe that everyone who's rich is evil, or vice versa, if you aren't able to trust yourself, trust people, or you don't trust yourself to make decisions, these questions will help you realize, if you haven't already, and it will also help you work through it and figure out why you think those things, why you have those bad thoughts about everything around. You can't really make changes to something if you don't know why it's happening or why you are doing it, why you are thinking it. So, the first question is, what are some recurring negative thoughts and self talk patterns that you have? This is a really, really good one to start with because it helps you to really think about whether or not you have negative thoughts and self talk patterns. Because, like I said, sometimes you do things and think things without even realizing it. Now you'll be able to actually identify those patterns. Another one is, what are some limiting beliefs that you have? Where did they start and how do they affect your choices? I remember a few years ago, I was watching some YouTube videos where they were encouraging you, the audience, to write down all your limiting beliefs concerning money. And this actually inspired me to do the same thing. I was trying to figure out, like, okay, what negative thoughts do I have? And things like money is the root of all rich people are evil, etc. You may end up feeling like anyone who had a certain amount of money was like a scammer or they did something bad to get that money. I also remember thinking that money was limited and remember feeling like I could not make a certain amount of money because I had never seen anyone in my family do it, or maybe I will never be like my father who was smart enough to build this like a house and like properties and stuff. These were all limiting beliefs. If you're not new here, you know that I talk about this all the time. Whenever you have a goal in mind, especially if it's a big goal and it seems very far out of reach, your mind will immediately take you to a limiting belief 9 times out of 10 because it wants you to feel safe, not stressed, not anxious. So it's going to try to stop you from taking that risk, whatever risk that is that you are trying to take. It doesn't matter. It's gonna just try to stop you. Another question is, if I was a dear friend, how would my self talk and actions change? I talked about this in my most recent stories on Instagram, I guess, or something, on like how my glow up journey, my mindset journey. I don't even know what I mentioned exactly at that point, but I think it's about those people who used to talk to themselves like trash, whether it was out loud or just in their heads or before sleeping. And remembering, like, thinking to myself, like, I would never talk to a stranger like this. There are some people out there who talk negatively about themselves. So they can just pause for a second and think, like, would I ever talk to a stranger this way? I would never say these things to a stranger, so I can never say those things to myself. So why don't I spend quality time with myself and make myself happy and love myself enough? When I love someone, I affirm them verbally. Why don't I affirm myself verbally? Like, I love you, I'm proud of you, and so on. When I love someone, I do things for that person. So why don't I do things for myself? Why am I always waiting for someone else to do something for me where I can actually do the same thing to myself and like gift all that attention, love, anything to myself? Another question would be, it's a good one. In what ways do you fear being judged? And how does this influence your actions? I always talk about how I wanted to start a podcast channel on Spotify like 2 years ago or something. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know like what friend I should tell this idea to. I didn't know if I have enough time, even though I was still at the university. I didn't want people to see me without to be not fully prepared because you know me, I love perfection. I also cringed the idea at first, like, oh, I don't know how many people will listen to my podcast. I'm not sure of this. But I just kept that idea in my mind. I just couldn't let it go. It was like hunting me. And then these were things that were running through my head most of the times. And eventually I had to stop caring and do what I wanted to do because at the end of the day, if anyone does not like my episodes or my podcast or the way I'm talking, then the episode or the channel itself is not for them. And I have to be okay with that. I don't care. But I'm not going to do something I want to do just because I'm trying to please other people. I'm doing this because I want this, not to please them or to show off or whatever. Especially because I really don't check like views or how many likes I got on my episodes. So, another good one is how do you treat yourself when you make mistakes? It's a very good one, trust me. I used to beat myself up for how bad I reacted or the time I was feeling so bad because like it took me like so long to heal from something where actually I shouldn't do that because healing is a part of the process and no one can really tell you how long that should be. You can take 3 weeks and you can take literally 6 months or a year to heal. So I made what I thought it was a mistake. I did not give myself enough grace. I was very harsh with myself, very hard on myself. And like I said, I would never do a lot of that stuff to a stranger or someone I love. So, of course, I shouldn't have done it to myself. Of course, I'm not answering these questions in depth because I'm just trying to give you all an idea of how to answer the questions and a good idea of some questions that you can answer. But when I first started doing this, it was hard. It was really, really hard for me at the beginning to sit with myself with those questions and with the things that I have been holding in for so long subconsciously. So you might cry a little bit answering those questions. You might cry thinking about your past, what you did wrong, because there are probably a lot of things that have happened to you in the past that you try to forget about them, but you decided somehow to skip and not actually heal and work on those small issues from the past. So bringing them back is going to cause you to get a little bit emotional and uncomfortable, and that's okay. You have to work through it in order to become better and just let it go all for once. Just remember, when you're going through this process, leaving these things untouched and unresolved it will only hurt you. It hurts you. It hurts the generation that are coming after you, your kids, your grandkids, the way you are going to properly raise your children. So yes, in the moment, it's going to hurt going through all this stuff. It's going to hurt bringing up all that old trauma. It's going to hurt bringing up all that old hurt, the past memories, and the awful moments you had with certain people. But you got to do it if you want to become better, if you want to have a better sense of yourself. So, like I said, these are just examples of shadow work questions that I have personally already answered, and I do that regularly on my journal. It was hard at first. Sometimes you may feel like crying, or you're just so upset that you don't want to do it anymore. So I wish you all the best. Let me know how this works for you if you try it. Stay tuned for more episodes. Talk to you soon, and have a nice day.